The NFL stands for not for long.
Set, Sharga and Armstead. Roll out, Walker still running out. Looks to the left, wide open, Thompson touchdown. Colin Thompson with the touchdown. There was nobody within 20 yards of
What a catch off the bobble. Colin Thompson scoops it up.
Lofting corner, the end zone. It is caught for the touchdown. The first NFL touch for Colin Thompson is a score.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Colin Thompson Show, presented by N4L Media and our friends at the original Fudge Kitchen, shipping fudge and sweet treats across the country. FudgeKitchens.com. Check them out. If you're not down the Jersey Shore and you can't pop into one of their 6 locations, all the way from Ocean City down to Cape May, New Jersey, they'll ship it to you 24 hours, 48 hours, boom, it's at your door. They ship it right out of the back of their main office there in Cape May, New Jersey, FudgeKitchens.com. Jack Connell, we are live today across all our platforms. We're excited to go live. We figured, hey, why not? We're going to have an episode Monday. We're probably going to have an episode Wednesday. We'd even talked about this. And then Friday. So why not? You and I, like old school days, do it live when the heat is on with all of our viewers. What's going on?
Nothing much. I feel like the last time we went live, it was like when I had my rinky-dink setup of like my old computer, like very old school. It feels like it's been a while since we've done a actual live stream of the show. I could be missing one or two, but
look at you shouting out your new in your background and your fancy new computer and all this stuff. I love it.
I mean, listen, the computer I was running off of, it was literally a tablet at that point. So I mean, anything would have been an upgrade over that.
No doubt about it. So lots to talk about. Some things we're not going to get into, but Taylor Swift and the Kansas City thing, I think everybody's okay with not talking about that. Usher going to the Super Bowl halftime show. I love it. I think Colin Cowherd's take of there's only so many people that can do these halftime shows because there's only so many gifted artists in this world, Taylor Swift being one of them, that can truly move the needle. I think Usher can be in that category and will be fun and will connect to both a male and female audience. So that's exciting. 3 bars of the week this week, Jack. We had an amazing wedding. But I digress. Before I get into all that, my first kind of take of the weekend was, is it time to move on from the red zone and these post-game shows and all the extra stuff of the NFL? I remember as a kid, I would watch the games that we had locally. They would show the highlights during the games. This is not even as a kid. This is not that long ago, actually. Let's just go back to high school, college, when I was a young man. And you would be so excited for the Fox, 7 o'clock show after the 4 o'clock games would come to an end, right? It was like they would go to 60 minutes and then you would flip to the national broadcast as they're getting ready for the night game, the 8:30 game. Like now I could already tell you all the storylines. I've seen every touchdown 3 times over. I know all the scores of all the games. Jack, is it time to pull the throttle back or just throttle down? And then since you know everything that's going on, you can just move on to something else and maybe watch a TV show in that time between the night game and something like I'm so excited to put on Good Morning Football this morning, but like we already saw everything yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I never liked as a kid just only being able to watch the Eagles game and just whatever one other game was on CBS or whatever. Like I always loved, like when I was like 5, 6 years old, opening up the Enquirer and seeing all like the helmets that were in colored ink of like all the different games that week of all the different teams that were playing. I mean, and also I'm also like social media, like I'm doing a bunch of stuff for us and my Ross Tucker podcast during the game, like pulling highlights and stuff. I need to have eyes on 8 different games at once, and red zone's the best possible way. I got to be knowing what's happening every single game for work to talk about it, know what's going on, know players, know who did well. Again, I also have a fantasy football team. So like I like to keep tabs. I have stakes in the game for every single game. So I like having.
Yeah, but that's great. But now what? Because now all these shows we're doing, everybody already has these takes, right? Like I just think it diminishes a little bit of the post-game show, a minute of the podcast world. Like you're like quadruple dipping If you listen to Ross and you listen to us and you turn on Cowherd and then you turn on the Eagle, like I'm just saying, I just think because we have so much access to the games now from whatever it is, $15 a month to watch, or more than that, to watch, the NFL Red Zone and have the 4 games on one screen, and my laptop has a game, and my buddy brings an iPad over, and we're watching 7 games at once. Do we need all the shows during the week? Talking about them. Do we?
I think
No.
it's still there. It's always been Red Zone has been around for like 10 years at this point.
Yeah, but it's more now. People are watching it more now than ever. People are watching all the games. They have the Red Zone in one corner. They have a 60-inch screen TV, and there's three games on the screen. I love it. Don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying, my point is, during the week, is it overkill to double dip and watch these shows and keep going? That's my question, Jack. That's my question.
No, because there's different opinions, and a lot of fans they tune into these shows. Not necessarily, there are some that want to hear about everything around the league, but a lot of these people want to hear if they just won, how great their team is, or if they lost, how their coach is the worst thing, who they're going to fire, who they're going to hire, who they're going to draft. And these people want to hear different opinions. They want to hear everybody say that. And that's stuff you're not going to get from the games. Like, you'll see it happen, but you want to talk about it. So, I mean, I don't think that it really has any diminishing return. If anything, it's boosting it because now people are seeing all these more games and they're getting interested in what the Miami Dolphins is looking like with Devon Achane, like what they're all doing. I mean, I say Achane. He changed. It was initially Devon Achane, a part of the team, but something came out earlier today that he wants to pronounce it a different way. I haven't seen exactly how he wants to pronounce. But again, people are interested in these other stories and stuff now because Red Zone has bought the ability to watch more of these games and see more of this stuff as compared to SportsCenter breaking it down 2.5 minutes with Chris Berman go, whoop! Like it's a different world.
Listen, I hear you. And as a diehard person, I think it's becoming too much for me. Too much. I'm the biggest diehard there is. It's my lifestyle for the last 20 years. But it's just now that we can watch all the games on Sunday, more than ever, the access is more than ever. I think there's so many shows now during the week. There's so many there's 4 post-game shows. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I just think the rubber's going to meet the road at some point business-wise. And there's a lot of viewers to go around. But eventually, I think there's something coming there. We'll keep our tabs on it, and we shall see. Interesting stuff here. We have our first trio bar of the week this week, and all 3 of these bars have been bars of the week for us at the Colin Thompson Show, brought to you by the original Fudge Kitchen, fudgekitchens.com. McGarvey's, Dock Street, and Davis's Pub in Annapolis, Maryland, treated us unbelievably this weekend. Shout out to Blake and Mary Sean, the Wood family, the Wilcox family for an amazing wedding weekend. Amazing. 2 amazing people with an amazing group of friends. And we had an absolute blast of a weekend at these weddings. And we finished the weekend of weddings celebrating this amazing couple at 3 great places at McGarvey's, Dock Street, and Davis's. They all have their own flair. They all have different things going on, but local establishments in Annapolis, Maryland, you can't beat them. McGarvey's, Dock Street, and Davis's, great service, food, ambiance, the whole 9. The bars of the week this week on the Colin Thompson Show. So shout out to those places, and shout out to our friends over at Wealth Advisory Services. Wealth Advisory Services, if you don't know them, you should. We've been really lucky to have them as our financial advisor in our family for decades. And they have hundreds of years of experience in their office. Doylestown, Bucks County, PA, Cape May, New Jersey. And they work with clients across the country, 401k planning, retirement planning, buying a house, budgeting. They work with my buddies in the NFL, coaches in college football. Been really blessed to be able to pass them along to people as a sponsor of this show, of someone that I trust, my family trusts, to work with Wealth Advisory Services, helping anybody of all levels of investor reach their goals in life. Shout out to Paul Crew and Jenkins down there at wealthadvisoryservices.com. Okay, Jack, so my big take of the weekend listen, we all saw what happened in Miami. We get all that. But I think really, if you really look into it, it's just a glimpse of what's been happening in the NFL over the last couple decades with Kyle Shanahan's father and his tree of coaches that come underneath of him that call football plays. Don't read too far into this one, folks. This is not hire this coach or that coach. Just go out and hire one of these guys. And if I'm ever getting into coaching, I'm doing anything I can to get into one of those buildings to learn from one of those people. I was so blessed to work under Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings during training camp and see what that offense is about. Okay. Offenses with all these coaches, and I'm going to get into them, they mask your weaknesses. They allow your people to play fast. Not you are fast, but play fast. Don't think, react, go rip it up. They get it done, period. Motions, shifts, outside zone, inside zone, gap scheme, power runs, counter. They're creative in the run game. You know, the motions coming back with the tight ends here and the fullbacks there. The majority of them have fullbacks too, by the way. So the fullback position is not done because the Shanahan coaching trees will never die because they produce all of them offensively. I'm not talking about the staffs and defenses and all that stuff, but the screens, the deception, they'll run the same play 3-4 times in a row, but it's all based off of the run game and the play action game. Everything is based off those two things, where in football, everyone thinks spread it out and we're going to take shots down the field. So formationally, everything looks the same, but it's completely different. So the Niners with Kyle Shanahan, Dolphins with Mike McDaniel, Vikings with Kevin O'Connell, Sean McVay with the Rams, Zach Taylor with the Bengals, Packers and Matt LaFleur. You know, Gary Kubiak, went back a little bit with what he did with the Texans, right? Okay, offensive line, Matt Schaub, solid quarterback, Andre Johnson, Foster, they lit it up. Shaw went to the Pro Bowl. We remember Matt Ryan in Atlanta and how good they were when Matt won MVP of the league with Kyle Shanahan calling those plays. So to me, they're just, you got to see it on display this week of how hard it is to stop those teams when you have the toys. And if you don't have the toys to get it done, you still can have success. You can have the last pick in the draft and go all the way to the NFC Championship game with your quarterback. You can have a bad O-line and good skill guys. You could have a great O-line and bad skill guys. Whatever it may be, you can make it happen and have tons of success. So they're just a few, and there's probably people I left out. But if I'm an owner, how do you not start in there with interviewing people on the job? What do you think, Jack, of those offenses? I know you study the game a lot.
I think if Al Davis was still around, that one of these guys would absolutely be a coach of the Raiders at some point, or somebody from the Shanahan tree. Because if you look at the Miami Dolphins, I'm giving credit to my guy Emery Hunt, who tweeted this out. The Miami Dolphins is what Al Davis has always dreamed of as a franchise, in the sense of just 6 of the fastest dudes on the planet on one offense. I mean, it's insane. I mean, it's between Mostert and A-Chain, and I mean, the timing, quick rhythm of Tua, and the fact that he has Tyreek Hill in these deep routes. Jalen Waddle didn't even play. I mean, one of my favorite things about the entire Shanahan system is the fact that fullbacks have pretty much made a comeback under the Shanahan system. You look at Alec Ingold in Miami. You look at Juszczyk in San Francisco. Ham in Minnesota. I mean, they're back. I mean, for as long as it looked like the fullback was pretty much gone in the water, it was your backup tight end was a wing. Okay, you know that better than anybody, really. I mean,
all
so
three
it's just
of those guys can move, can catch, can carry the football, play on special teams. Like, they're not the old school fullback too. They're athletic, very athletic, all three of them. So, and not to cut you off, Jack, but you hit the nail on the head, man. Like, but I'll say this. You need the right coordinator with those guys. Not everyone's like, anybody can be the coordinator of those teams. Yeah, okay, I get it. But not everyone's hanging 70. And that's a Denver defense that's successful. This isn't like a random defense here, guys. Like last year, they were really good. And they have some good players in that defense. Don't get me wrong. That's Sean Payton. Like, that's a good football coach. That's Russ. I thought Russ was doing some things in the game too that were like, he looked like old Russ a little bit. A lot of it. Running, moving, throwing balls that look like the guy's not open, and he throws the guy open. So, like, obviously the wheels got off the bus, and it is what it is. But you're right, Jack. I mean, what the Raiders always wanted, right? So I just think, man, those guys are different. the system's different. And the number one way is it masks your weaknesses, period. It masks them. It allows you to play fast. You don't have to be fast. I'm speaking from experience in this in Minnesota. Everyone's like, man, you look quick. Well, there's no thinking.
Mm-hmm. And
you don't have to create anything for yourself. They create it. The offense creates it for you. And then from there, you do what you want with the ball.
Yeah, and like because they have so much quick time rhythm things, it's just very quick passes. Tua's release is very fast it is. And I think it's done so great to help these quarterbacks develop and really not throw them into the water and make them make their own decisions. Like they can, but I mean, it's built out for them by these coordinators. Tua looked night and day from Brian Flores, who's not a bad coach. He's an incredible defensive coach, but going from that system to then Mike McDaniel in that offense, it's night and day. Brock Purdy was able to prop himself up because of that and build off of that, gain confidence, and look like a really, really good quarterback. I mean, you can have a really great quarterback that's quarterback play based off that system, but you can prop them up and kind of give them a head start and make them feel comfortable compared to some of these other teams.
I think you made a great to prop them up. Really well said, because they know, it's been done by like 100 guys behind them. And if you just facilitate and do your job, you are going to have a ton of team success. And the best part is with those offenses, there's days where everybody eats. I get it. But it changes it up. It goes from different guy to different guy. That's why like taking Kittle in your fantasy team is really tough. George is, I think, the best tight end in the league. But overall, complete tight end, everything. He does everything under the sun for that offense. Pass block, run routes. People hear me pound the table for him like crazy. Kelsey, I think he's a Hall of Fame wide receiver. One of the best wide receivers of all time. Kelsey. Now, he blocks well in space. He blocks linebackers well. The jet sweep stuff. I'm not saying he's soft. I'm just saying his game is different. I want to make that clear to our listeners. Very few are like Kittle and Gronk that can do both and not just at a little bit of a level, an extremely high level. So, I digress. And I think like Kittle will have a game where he scores 3 touchdowns and another 250 yards receiving. And then he'll have a game where he gets 1 catch and he's not even, he's covered the whole game. But Debo's one-on-one and C-Mac. And it's just, it's fun to watch, man. And I am happy for those guys and those coordinators and all that stuff because I was a part of it in Minnesota. I got to know the tree a little bit of coaches and those guys that are trying to make it up through the ranks. And there are a lot of really good men too. So, that's a side note, a little personal note there. Really good stuff. So shout out to our friends at SeatGeek. Use promo code Colin Thompson for $20 off your tickets, $50 or more. A lot of people complaining about going to the Ravens. You know, the Ravens around here. Jack's pretty funny, man. Like a lot like Philly, right? Like they lost. Don't get me wrong, but like Lamar did some good things, and I watched the game, and I think he's on the uptick. First off, he's a freak of nature. He could be the best athlete in the NFL. I don't even know if it's arguable. Like the things he does with his feet and his arm are ridiculous. And to make a long story short, it's just funny walking around the gym today. Like everyone's like just complaining about him, and it's just typical. I just had to bring that up. I move on. I digress. Jack, do you happen to catch the Notre Dame Ohio State game?
I did not get a chance to watch that one. I was watching Ole Miss, Alabama before that, and I just was footballed out at that point. I had a bunch of games ahead of me on Sunday. I did not get a chance to really watch that game.
Huh, so you will admit a little bit of a burnout. Okay.
I do it in college. I will admit in college.
Yeah. We'll get you an SEC team to root for. Pick one, folks. Like I did with the Premier League. It's the best thing you could ever do. I watched the Notre Dame Ohio State game a little bit. Second largest regular season game in college football audience ever. Shout out to Front Office Sports, the NBC. Second largest regular season game. Unbelievable. But a perfect storm, a perfect match. Gets everyone talking about, Notre Dame, possibly in the Big Ten. Rivalry-wise, ratings-wise, amazing. But Notre Dame can coexist on their own and make way more money. So it's really interesting business structure there. So I don't think Notre Dame does that. But Lou Holtz. See what he kind of said about Ryan Day and his team?
Yeah, I did catch the comments from Lou Holtz and then also the claimed comments by Lee Corso that was a Washington State's coach mentioned during his post-game press conference.
Ryan Day said pretty much ripped Lou Holtz, which, listen, everyone's like, oh, he's an 80-year-old man. No, he's a grown human being who's a coach in football that made a statement that was disrespectful to Ohio State football. period. And Ohio State showed up and answered the bell. Like, what is it? When you get over the age of like 73, we can't like rebut back. Like, just because he's 80 something, like, does that make us not like call him out when so I love what Ryan Day here did. He went right to it, right at it, took it personal. And what did they do in the last play of the game? They ran it right up the middle, ran Notre Dame over, and walked off. So an amazing finish, and I have a ton of respect for Ryan Day. He recruited me to Boston College. They ended up being the second team I would have went to if Florida did not exist. And he was a large reason to do with it. So I'm a fan of Coach Day, and then even more of a fan for this weekend for calling out a coach who I respect in Lou Holtz. But he said, Ohio State team, point blank, under Ryan Day, they're soft. Well, they showed up and they beat up Notre Dame. So respect to both the guys for making big-time opinions and backing up their statements. And Jack for admitting that he's burned out with football on a Saturday. Love that. On another note, before you go down to some rabbit hole here, you hear about the XFL and maybe USFL merging?
I did see that. I think that's a great idea.
Elaborate. Why?
Well, it's the thing. The spring league, it's people are going to watch football, and it just seems like these two would be taking away from each other by paddling. And they did last year. I mean, people who went to watch football in April, May, they had to choose between the USFL and XFL at some points. Now they won't have to. It'll be one league. It'll be, if they keep it as is, it's like 25 some teams, 26, somewhere around that range. You're going to double you're bringing in big investors with the Rock and stuff to the USFL. You're getting, I don't know where the XFL streamed, but I know USFL was Fox, I believe. And it's just, I'm really excited to see it. I mean, listen, I think these two could really benefit from kind of merging and growing the sport. There's no reason to fight two 10-team leagues when you can just have one 20-team league.
I love it. I think you're spot on, Jack. I completely agree. You're combining two major networks, and ESPN and Fox. If that happens, they come together. You're now getting The Rock, who is the perfect person to own those leagues. I played in the XFL. I love the XFL. Compared to the AAF, more money, not the same infrastructure. XFL, a little bit less money. Great infrastructure, in my opinion. Great ownership, especially now with The Rock. So very impressed what the XFL did this year in year 3.0, I guess you could call it, 3.0 version of it. And I think USFL and XFL merging is fantastic for those leagues. It strengthens the pool of players. It strengthens the pool of coaches. And most importantly, stuff that people don't understand, it fields a better operation from an operations perspective, ops, equipment managers, athletic trainers, travel. It puts it all under one roof. And at the end of the day, that all needs to be first class for the league to go. And I thought that's why the XFL, when I was a part of it, the 2.0 version, it was awesome. And we talked about this on the 5 as 1 podcast with Coach Heimbach, who was my coach in the XFL, and Gerald Foster, my teammate in the XFL, and check that podcast out if you have not, excuse me. Two great guys, and they get into it. It's a really good show. So, no, I agree, Jack. It's kind of the stuff I wanted to bring up today. Anything else standing out to you on the NFL slate this weekend? We got
Go
ahead.
Nothing. Something that we talked about on this morning's Ross Tucker Football podcast. Something that Andrew Hawkins initially tweeted that Ross saw and really enjoyed. I thought you'd be curious about this if you haven't seen it. In the Titans-Browns game, Myles Garrett, Jim Schwartz basically had Myles Garrett going from the side to side because the Titans, their game plan had a tight end and a wingback, just doubling him wherever side they would go. So they would motion to follow Garrett. Garrett would go back to the other side, and Tennessee ended up getting a delay game because they just did this 2 or 3 times. I also know if this is something you've ever encountered before. Thoughts on it? Shows how crazy good Myles Garrett is as a player.
I've never seen that before. And I wonder, I didn't go back and watch the game, but that was happening to Myles, and they probably just told him move around just until they get set, right? So I don't know when that was happening. I wish they could track it every time, or maybe we should at N4L Media find the clips leading up to that happening, and then the coaches getting with Myles and the Myles getting with the coaches and be like, hey, if I just move around, the clock's going to run out eventually here. So I love it. I mean, as a 2 tight ends, I better have an offensive lineman. You need an offensive lineman and a tight end, not a tight end and a tight end to bring him down, in my opinion, to not bring him down because nobody does, but to contain him. There's no way to stop him, right? You see it in these guys with Watt, with Garrett, with Mack, and Boza, and they just wrecked the game. They wrecked the game. So I understand it. Let's not allow them to wreck the game. I think that's what makes the Eagles really good. So they don't have, I think Hassan can wreck a game, as we saw, but they have 5 guys behind him, 6 guys behind him, like the hockey line change of like 4 new D linemen that come in, and you're like, okay, now what? What are we going to do? Right? I think the Niners have that. When the Bucks were at the top of the NFL, they had that with multiple guys, with JPP, Shaq Barrett, Sue, Vita Vey, like Golston. Like, you're like, what do we do here? And everyone wants to talk about these pretty passing games and all this different stuff. But those guys up front, when they decide to wreck shit, it's over. Done. If you can't run the ball at them, game's over. Game's over. So, and that's a great transition to the Eagles-Bucks game tonight. I mean, what a great lineup tonight for these Monday Night Football games, Jack. Right, the Bucks game. Now Baker hasn't had a interception yet. Great story there. He's at home. There's going to be a lot of Eagles fans there. I said it before last week on the Sam Boner Show. It's going to be a packed house for the game. So a lot of green in that stands. There's going to have to be maybe some crowd noise implications for the Bucks at home. We had that in Carolina, especially if the Eagles take a little bit of a lead, and then you got Rams and Bengals. So an awesome slate tonight. Any predictions from you, Jack? You know me. I'm very Switzerland. I will not give them because I hope all 4 of those teams are my employer one day. But Jack, who do you got, bud? Bucks and Eagles.
I don't know. That one's tough. I mean, Baker, alongside that, he's only been sacked once this season. Tampa Bay has had a really strong offensive line. I mean, Mike Evans and him have been connecting really well. Shout out to my fantasy team. They've been really enjoying Mike Evans really succeeding. I mean, this Eagles team, last week, they completely shifted their game plan to what Minnesota was running. I mean, Brian Johnson has really shown the ability to stay away from what he practiced all week and just work with what works. Not a lot of coordinators will actually do that in the league as much as that you think they would.
Great point.
Then meanwhile, on the other side of it, with Los Angeles and Cincinnati, the Rams look really good. Matt Stafford looks really, a lot of people after last season, the injury stuff kind of wrote him off. He looks kind of back to where he was almost. His wideouts, he's pretty much brought this, what was considered a ragtag group, to prominence. Like, they could be a playoff team. They probably will be a playoff team. I don't see why they can't win tonight. If the reason is Joe Burrow, he's dealing with a calf strain. I don't know if he's going to play tonight. If he doesn't play tonight, I think this is an easy Rams win, just from the sense that Cincinnati's kind of built around Joe Burrow. And I don't know how they would work with backup quarterback. We really haven't seen how this offense works in this current form without Joe Burrow. They didn't look great at all when he was hurt. Maybe somebody with 2 healthy legs can kind of make it better, but I don't know. I'm feeling the Rams in that one.
I'll speak from someone who's had calf strains. They're not pretty, guys. And there's no end in sight. And that's the hardest part. With an ankle sprain, you're grinding because, barring some catastrophic, setback, I can come back from an ankle sprain. But a calf strain, I had 4 in 2 months, 3 in 2 months last year. So I didn't play. I was on the practice squad. They're a nightmare. And when they come back, they don't just take a day to come back from. It's weeks. So he keeps having setbacks. He's thinking about it. It's everything you do because it's devastating injury on the calf. So that scares me for him. I think the one scary thing here is the Eagles played 2 Thursdays ago, and they've been off in the interim. So the Eagles, who are 2-0 and are coming off a 10-day break with multiple off days in that break, and a nice trip down to no state income tax Florida to play. This could be a dangerous Eagles run here moving forward because they're going to be ready to roll. That's all I'm going to say. It has nothing to do with the Bucks. It has everything to do with the Eagles. You give a team a 10-day break, that's legit with that veteran team. So we'll see. I'm a Baker fan, big time. And I'm a fan of this Eagles team too. So I'm excited to see what goes on. Todd Bowles, shout out to Temple Owls, baby. So good stuff as always, Jack. Lots to watch tonight. Those 2 offenses we were talking about, You got the Rams and Bengals tonight. They're a part of those, kind of that offensive tree, the Shanahan tree. You know, you got the Eagles, who are really like a Andy Reid tree a little bit. Who's the OC for the Bucs? Why is this slipping my mind?
He's from Seattle. Canales? Is it Dave Canales?
Okay, I wonder where. I don't know his tree, but that's okay. Life goes on. The great Jack Connell. I'm Colin Thompson. Quick 30-minute episode today to talk about the weekend because, hey, everyone else is too, so why don't we? Shout out to our sponsors, the Fudge Kitchen, Wealth Advisory Services, Persiki, promo code Colin Thompson, our friends at Actions Over Words, Shore Boy, Jack. I was wearing my shirt all weekend, man. It's like my nighttime shirt now. It's cool, calm, and collected, and then I wear it in the summer to keep out of the sun. Check out Shore Boy. So nice of them to send us some gear. And then lastly, our friends at the Wharf in Wildwood, New Jersey, supporting us at the Colin Thompson Show and the Sam Boner Show. One of our favorite pods, most interesting pod, chaos and fun with Mick. We have an Annapolis episode coming up there, guys. And just, it's a good time. Always a great time to be a Sam Boner. Shout out to our friends at the Wharf in Wildwood, New Jersey. They got a great staff, great food, great management, and just great friends down there in Central Wildwood. So, all right, Jackie. Appreciate you coming on, Jack Connell. I'm Colin Thompson. Maybe we'll do live shows moving forward too, Jack. I like the heat. I like the pressure now that I'm waiting for my next job with the team. I need a little juice. Appreciate everyone at N4L Media team for making this possible.